On February 12, 1977, Christa Helm was found murdered outside her agent's home in West Hollywood. She had been brutally stabbed more than 20 times and was discovered lying on the ground, partially hidden beneath a parked car. Her body bore signs of a fierce struggle, with defensive wounds on her hands and arms, indicating that she fought valiantly against her attacker. In the glamorous world of Hollywood, where fame and fortune often conceal dark secrets, the mysterious murder of actress Christa Helm remains an unsolved enigma. Who wanted to silence her, and what secrets did she take to her grave? Welcome to Bad Things. Join us today as we delve into the mystery to uncover who most likely killed Christa Helm. Christa was originally named Sandra Lynn Walfield, but we'll call her Christa throughout to keep it simple. She was born on November 10, 1949 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and grew up in a family that faced significant challenges. She was the eldest of 3 girls. Her father, Harry, worked for an asphalt company, while her mother, Dolores, was a housewife. Unfortunately, Dolores struggled with alcoholism, which caused many problems in their marriage. When Christa was less than 3 years old, her parents divorced. After the divorce, Christa and her 2 sisters lived with their mother. However, the environment became unsafe due to the abusive men Dolores brought into their lives. Eventually, the girls moved in with their father and his new wife, Nancy. Despite these challenges, Christa was bright and ambitious, determined to rise above her circumstances and achieve something great. At the age of 17, Christa became pregnant by Gary Clements, a 34-year-old karate school owner. This connection also introduced her to martial arts and self-defense training. They quickly married after she discovered she was expecting. However, the marriage was extremely short-lived, as Gary left her the day after their wedding. She later gave birth to a baby girl named Nicole. This newfound role as a mother fueled Christa's drive to succeed and provide a better life for her daughter. After becoming a single mother, Sandra changed her name to Christa Helm as she pursued her dreams in the entertainment industry. Her daughter Nicole later revealed that Christa had a form of scoliosis, but she was far too ambitious to let that hinder her goals. Christa decided to try her luck at the Playboy Club in Chicago, but she wasn't successful in landing a job there. Believing that New York might offer more opportunities, she temporarily sent Nicole to a caregiver in Vermont and set off to chase her dreams in the Big Apple. Not long after arriving in New York, Christa befriended Stuart Duncan, an heir to the Lee and Perrins Worcestershire sauce fortune. Stuart, however, was more passionate about theatre, particularly the production side of the industry. He started a few projects, and his third venture was a production called Godspell, in which he offered Christa a financial stake. During this time, Stuart became something of a sugar daddy for Christa. He provided her with an expensive residence and financed her lavish New York lifestyle. Stuart also funded her movie, Let's Go for Broke, in which Christa played an investigative journalist. As her social circle grew, Christa made many friends and acquaintances, including Lenny Barron, a talented costume designer with connections across the entertainment industry. Lenny introduced Christa to influential people who could help advance her career. He also owned a modeling agency and agreed to hire Christa, providing her with steady income for a considerable time. Christa eventually began securing acting roles, including a small part in the movie Legacy of Satan. Some scenes for the movie were filmed in Christa's apartment in 1972, and the film was released in 1974. Her own movie, Let's Go for Broke, was also released that same year. However, the physically demanding stunts in the film took a toll on Christa, who already suffered from scoliosis, and she ended up hospitalized. During her hospital stay, Christa became friends with the famous football player Joe Namath, who was there recovering from a sports-related injury. Their friendship reportedly evolved into a brief romantic relationship. Despite the effort, Let's Go for Broke premiered at a theater in Ohio but failed to generate much attention. Determined to stay in the spotlight, Christa began seeking ways to insert herself into gossip columns to maintain social relevance. Soon afterward, Christa moved to Los Angeles, hoping to land more acting roles. She managed to secure minor parts in popular TV series such as Wonder Woman and Starsky and Hutch. During this time, Christa formed a close relationship with Bernie Kornfeld, a well-connected and influential figure in the finance world who was also known as a ladies' man. In the years leading up to her death, Christa began working at Sergio's nightclub, a hotspot frequented by politicians and celebrities. The club featured intimate lounge areas designed for private gatherings, and Christa made sure to take full advantage of the opportunities this environment provided. While working at Sergio's, she was introduced to George Hamilton, a connection that would later play a significant role in the investigation surrounding her death. In 1976, Christa moved out of the residence sponsored by Stuart Duncan and into her own apartment, which she shared with a roommate named Patty Collins, another name that is important for this story. The diary. During this time, it was widely known that Christa kept a secret diary with her at all times. In this diary, she meticulously logged details of her sexual encounters, many of which were with famous and powerful men, including politicians, musicians, and actors. Some of the notable names rumored to appear in her diary included Jack Nicholson, Mick Jagger, Joe Namath, Warren Beatty, Desi Arnaz, and Johnny Rivers. The list of her alleged lovers wasn't limited to Hollywood elite. It also included royalty. Among them was the Shah of Iran. It is speculated that she may have met him through Lenny's modeling agency, though this connection remains unconfirmed. In the period leading up to her death, Christa was reportedly working on a disco album with a renowned music producer named Frankie Crocker. Now let's introduce some key individuals who might have played a role in her tragic demise. Christa's roommate Patty Collins and Debbie Danilo were two backup singers for Christa's album. Patty and Christa had by now developed a romantic relationship. Stephanie, Christa's later roommate, claimed that Patty gave off bad vibes and was jealous of Christa. It was also rumored that Christa, Patty, and George Hamilton had a shared sexual encounter which was allegedly recorded on an audio tape and referenced in Christa's diary. Although Patty and Christa grew close, their relationship soured before Christa's death. Christa eventually kicked Patty out of her apartment and removed her from the album project they were working on together. One of the keyboardists for the disco album, Blair Aronson, also developed an interest in Christa. However, things became more complicated when Debbie Danilo, the other backup singer, also expressed feelings for Blair. Blair claimed that the night before Christa's murder, he was intimate with her. During their encounter, he said he saw Debbie outside the window, watching them. Debbie denied this accusation, insisting that she had seen Christa and Patty making out with another musician that same night. Christa's life had undeniably become chaotic and fraught with tension. Around this time, a childhood friend of Christa's received a troubling postcard from her, which read, "I'm in over my head and I might need to disappear for a while. If anything happens to me, please take care of Nicole." It seems as though Christa may have sensed that her life was in danger. The night of the murder. On February 11, 1977, Christa Helm attended a party in Laurel Canyon with her roommate Stephanie. They were excited to be out and enjoying the lively atmosphere. The party was rumored to have been hosted by someone in the music industry, but the exact organizer remains unclear. During the party, something seemed to unsettle Christa. Stephanie noticed a strange expression on her face, as though she was worried about something. When Stephanie asked her what was wrong, Christa brushed it off, insisting it was nothing. However, Stephanie could tell that something had clearly shaken her. As the night progressed, Stephanie left for the beach with her boyfriend. Before leaving, she handed her car keys to Christa, trusting her friend to take care of herself while she was gone. Later that evening, while driving down Sunset Boulevard, Stephanie suddenly felt anxious about Christa. She asked her boyfriend to pull over so she could use a payphone to check on her. However, when she called Christa's apartment, no one answered. What happened to Christa after the party remains uncertain. However, in the early hours of February 12th, she drove to the home of Sandy Smith, a music agent in West Hollywood. She parked in front of a neighbor's house. The erratic positioning of the car suggested she may have been driving hastily. At some point during this time, Christa was brutally attacked with a large butcher knife and a blunt object. Despite her martial arts training, which allowed her to put up a fierce fight, she succumbed to her injuries and bled to death. Around 1:30 a.m., a man named Thurman Brooms, who owned a limo service, discovered Christa's body. He claimed to have been standing over her when she took her last breath, though this account is questionable. After finding her lifeless body, Thurman reportedly knocked on Sandy Smith's door, but received no response. He then drove to the nearest police station to report the murder. The investigation. Detective Larry Gansey took charge of the investigation. From the outset, it was evident that Christa's murder was not a random act. It appeared to be deeply personal and carried out with extreme rage. Christa had multiple defensive wounds on her body, indicating that she fought fiercely against her attacker. Her purse was missing, leading investigators to speculate that the attacker might have been after something specific, possibly her infamous diary. An autopsy revealed that Christa had suffered numerous stab wounds, primarily around her neck and chest. The cause of death was determined to be exsanguinating hemorrhage caused by these wounds. The medical examiner noted that some injuries suggested she had been attacked while lying face down. As investigators searched for clues, they interviewed neighbors who reported hearing a man and woman arguing around the time of the murder. One witness, actor John Grease, recalled hearing terrifying screams, but didn't see anything when he stepped outside to check. Detective Gansey, leading the case, suspected that Christa's murder might be linked to the killing of actor Sal Mineo, who had been murdered in the same area a year earlier. However, Sal Mineo's convicted killer, Lionel Ray Williams, had no evidence connecting him to Christa's murder. During the investigation, a friend of Rudy Mazzella, who had been living with Christa's keyboardist, claimed that Rudy confessed to killing her. However, when questioned, Rudy denied any involvement, and no evidence was found to substantiate the claim. Over time, the investigation stalled and eventually went cold, with no solid leads or suspects to pursue further. Years later, Christa's daughter took matters into her own hands. She contacted the Cold Case Division of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, hoping to reignite interest in solving her mother's murder. Unfortunately, her efforts failed to uncover any incriminating evidence. Sandy Smith. Sandy was Christa's agent and had a close relationship with her. He attended the party where Christa was last seen alive, and it was outside his house that she was murdered. Sandy claimed he was asleep during the murder and did not hear anything, but witnesses reported seeing people coming and going from his house that night. The discovery of Christa's body just outside his home raised suspicions about his involvement. Furthermore, there were allegations that Sandy was involved in drug dealing, which could have placed Christa in dangerous situations. Patty Collins. Patty disappeared immediately after Christa was killed, which raised suspicions about her possible involvement. If she had a role in the murder, she may have fled out of fear or to avoid being caught. It is believed that she went to live with family. When cold case investigators reopened the case in 2006, they discovered female DNA under Christa's fingernails. This strongly suggested that another woman was involved in the struggle leading up to her death. Could it have been Patty? According to WhoKilledChristaHelm.com, a popular music agent who wished to remain anonymous stated, "I always got bad vibes from Patty. She seemed very jealous and unpleasant. When investigators questioned me, I told them Patty is the one they should be looking at." George Hamilton expressed similar sentiments when questioned in relation to Christa's death. Despite this, Patty Collins has yet to be questioned about Christa's murder. However, given the violent nature of the attack and the physical strength required to overpower Christa and inflict such severe injuries, it is unlikely that a single woman could have carried out the attack alone. Rudy Mazzella. Rudy was a musician and drug dealer with connections to Christa and her social circle. Reports suggest that Rudy had bragged about killing Christa, though he later denied these claims. His history of violence and drug dealing makes him a compelling suspect, particularly since he was known to carry weapons. When cold case investigators reopened the case, they discovered that Rudy had already passed away, preventing them from uncovering any critical information. Christa's toxicology report confirmed that she was not under the influence of alcohol or barbiturates at the time of her murder, but that doesn't exclude other types of drugs. It's also worth noting that there has been no confirmation of a sexual relationship between Rudy and Christa. Tony Sirico. Tony, an actor best known for his role in The Sopranos, was trying to make it in Hollywood during Christa's time. He was reportedly sent to check on Christa's apartment shortly after her murder. While there, he allegedly took some of her belongings, including audio tapes containing sensitive information about her relationships. Jealous ex-lovers or girlfriends. Christa had numerous relationships with men, some of whom may have had jealous partners. Investigators suspect that jealousy could have been a motive for her murder. Women who felt threatened by Christa's presence in their lives may have harbored enough hatred to act violently. This theory is plausible given the nature of the crime. It was clearly one of passion. The intensity of the attack suggests it was carried out by someone consumed with strong emotions, such as jealousy or rage. The Shah of Iran connection. There are theories suggesting that Christa may have been involved with powerful figures, including the Shah of Iran. Some claims even speculate that she might have been gathering information for governmental purposes or engaging in a risky lifestyle that made her a target. Whatever the truth may be, Christa's habit of recording her encounters in her diary and on audio tapes put her in a precarious and dangerous position. Christa was brutally stabbed 22 times, indicating a crime of passion rather than a random act of violence. The ferocity of the attack suggests that the killer had a personal motive, possibly linked to the secrets contained in her diary. The tapes Christa recorded of her sexual encounters could have held sensitive information that might have been damaging to the individuals involved if made public. Reports indicate that a witness heard two women and a man arguing before the screams began. However, the witness's view of the scene was obscured by shrubs. Combined with the fact that DNA found under Christa's fingernails in 2006 belonged to a female, this strongly suggests that at least two people were involved in the attack. We remember that Christa's roommate, Stephanie, observed her acting worried on the night of the murder. Our hypothesis is that Christa became entangled in a love triangle. The nature of the murder doesn't suggest an act committed in the heat of the moment. While it's possible that someone threatened her to obtain her diary, leading to a struggle that escalated, the sheer violence of the attack points to deep underlying hatred or anger. So, who could have done it? The most prominent female suspect is Patty Collins, based largely on negative perceptions from others in Christa's circle and the fact that Patty disappeared shortly after the murder. Despite this, she was never questioned during the original investigation. Years later, new developments surfaced. According to the website WhoKilledChristaHelm.com, at the conclusion of the 2008 48 Hours episode on Christa, detectives located a person they believed to be Patty Collins. This Patty was a meth addict living in squalor in Montana. She claimed to have never lived in Los Angeles, but her sister told detectives she was lying. According to her sister, she did live in LA in the 1970s and had called her parents to bring her home because she was in serious trouble. Regardless, DNA from this Patty Collins did not match what was found under Christa's fingernails. Many people invested in the case agree that the police may have failed to locate the correct Patty Collins. If so, the real Patty Collins remains the person of interest due to her chaotic relationship with Christa, the witness accounts, and her sudden disappearance after the murder. And her accomplice? It's likely she fled from someone she knew due to the signs of high speed before she parked outside Sandy's home. We don't think it was Sandy, as it would be very strange to just leave someone lying outside the door and go back to bed. But we do believe he knows more than he has said. The testimonies about people coming and going from his house that night strengthen the suspicion that he might have known more than he admitted. If he actually heard or was aware of something, there could be several reasons why he chose not to act. Fear, guilt, or an attempt to cover something up. Regardless, it adds a strange and suspicious dimension to the case. Who the involved man was will just be a guess for our part, but most likely it was one from her inner circle. And if it was, there are people who know to this day what happened.